What is going on, YouTube? This is Mohammed, your personal PMP coach, coming back to you guys with an awesome video. In this video, we're going to talk about the PMP mindset. This is going to be a crash course on exactly what you need to know about the PMP mindset. This is going to be probably the single most important video in your PMP exam prep journey. I've included this workbook and I'm going to talk about it. I've included it in the description below so you can follow along. And before we begin, I want to let you know that I have a PMP Accelerator program, a program that's meant to take you by the hand, where I teach you everything that you need in order to get certified in the shortest amount of time possible, in the most surefire, guaranteed proof way that you can get certified in just a month. Okay, so if you're interested in that, book an appointment in the description below. Or if you just want a self-paced course where you do it yourself, no problem with that. I also have that plan, so you can book an appointment and we can discuss further. So let's get started on this video. It's going to be a long video, but it's going to be super important. Remember, if you want to pass the PMP exam, you need to master the PMP mindset. The mindset is the way that the PMI, the Project Management Institute, wants you to think when taking the PMP exam and when managing your projects. I'm going to introduce what I like to call the fast track method. Effortlessly solve any PMP problem so effective, it feels like cheating. All right? That's a good hook. It catches a lot of people's attention. So you guys can read this workbook on your own. We're going to jump straight into what I like to call the 3-step methodology. So any situation-based question that you face can be solved in 3 steps. Number 1, you want to understand what the problem statement is. You might read a problem. There's going to be a lot of fluff, a lot of useless information. You want to understand what the problem statement is in your own words. Remember, you can't solve something where you don't understand what the problem is. Number 2, you want to eliminate the answers that contradict our principles, which we're going to talk about next, and do not address the problem statement. So after that, you should be left with about maximum 2 answers, or you'll have the answer right away. And that's where you want to do. Number 3, choose the best answer that's completely solves the problem. Okay? 3 very easy steps, but a lot of people mess up on step number 1 because they're not able to understand the problem. And number 2, they're not able to properly eliminate the principles. But when this video is finished, and hopefully you stay till the end, you'll be able to understand how these principles work. Okay? So let's jump into our 23 mindset principles. Principle number 1 is probably the most important principle that you will see on your exam. Hands down, the most important principle. This is basically where the PM says that, you know what, before I actually engage in a certain action, I am going to take a step back, discuss with my team, analyze, investigate, basically gather more information so that I can make a sound decision when committing to an action. Anytime, I'll give you a hack. Anytime you have 4 options and one of those options is principle number 1, this is going to be your answer. I have never seen it. I have never seen a problem where that is not the answer. This is the most commonly used principle. Let's look at a quick example. I'm not going to read the question. The purpose of the principles is for you to be able to look at the answers and eliminate the answers. So out of these answers, which one do you think is going to be principle number 1? B, investigate. Take a step back. Look at the alternatives before doing anything else. So you might have to investigate before informing the subcontractor. You might have to investigate before notifying the client. But you need to take that step back first. In order to gather all that information, you need to discuss, and then move forward. Okay? Principle number one, very important. If you forget all the other principles, don't memorize these, but if you cannot remember any of the principles, do not forget principle number one, please. Let's move on to number two. Okay, so another word for one of my students said something really brilliant. I like this a lot. One of my students said that another word for project manager, or another title for project manager, should be a delay manager. Why? Because a PM should never settle for a delay. Think about it this way. When you settle for a delay in a project, what happens? You got to pay your employees more for the missed time. You got to pay the contractors. You got to pay for equipment, for procurement, whatever it may be. There's so many expenses. So you never want to settle for a delay, or you never want to put extra money up front if you don't need to. You don't want to spend extra if you don't need to. However, when there is a situation, which we're going to look at soon, where you can mitigate the delay by spending money, there's a scheduling compression technique specific to this. If anyone can get this right, I won't give you a prize, but I'll give you a thumbs up in your comment. There's a scheduling compression technique that summarizes this principle. If you need to mitigate a delay and you have extra money to spend, do so. Okay? Let's look at number two. Number two. All right. I'm not reading the question. Again, accept the delay. We never accept the delay. Negotiate with the client to extend the deadline by a month. When you extend the deadline of a project by a month, what are you doing? You're accepting that the project will be delayed by a month. You never want to do that. It might not look as bad on paper, but in reality, for that single month, you are losing a whole bunch of project funds. Use a scheduling compression technique and incur extra costs to meet the deadline. Interesting. Pause the project to assess others. So when I pause the project, what happens as a consequence? Delayed. So C is going to be the best answer in this situation. Let's go back. Number three, be a servant leader. Now, what's an easy way to remember this? Let's say you have some loving parents or a loving uncle, loving aunt. Just picture them. Let's say your mother loves you a lot. My mother's encouraging. She cares. She nurtures. A servant leader should be like a caring parent. That's the best way to remember it. So these are some key words that the PMI likes to throw in. Servant leadership is not just restricted to these keywords. Keep that in mind. And the last part, never create friction in the team. This simply means that if one of your team members is not doing well, is performing poorly, don't expose them. Don't expose them to the entire team, or don't fire them. Don't kick them out of the project. Work with that person. Okay? So I don't think I included a question for number three, so I have to do that. So hopefully that's clear. We're going to move on to number four, because I don't think I included a question for number three, but those are one of the easy questions to get. When you see these key words, you're able to get it right away. All right. Always choose the most value-driven answer. Key word to look for in the answers is value, right? So value is very subjective. It depends on the company or on the organization, what they deem as valuable. But you want to choose the most value-driven answer, okay? So one of the keywords, obviously, when you do this technique, do not just go to the answers, read the question. I'm going to the answers because I want to prove a point that you don't need a whole bunch of knowledge to answer these questions. Accept the feature increasing the project budget and schedule. So we know we don't increase the project budget and schedule. That shouldn't be our first step. When we increase the project schedule, what happens? There's a delay. Reject. So we don't want to reject things immediately. This is another principle we'll get into soon. Suggest a scaled down version of the feature to showcase early value while staying within the budget and schedule. So a scaled down version is MVP, or in this case, a minimal viable feature, which we'll talk about soon, another principle. So I have the keyword value here. I like this answer. Postpone. We don't want to postpone a project or anything because it's going to postpone the project as a consequence. And that is number 4. Okay, number 5. So we talked about this before. RCA, root cause analysis, and MVP are tools that the PMP loves to mention a lot. Or demo, I forgot. So MVP or demo, those are the two things. So we go back to number 5. And just scroll down. I'm gonna start switching tabs soon, so I don't have to keep scrolling down. But you know what I can do instead? I can show you my course. Let's go all the way up. I've been working on this course. So yeah, the principles are over here. Okay. This is a small part of my course. There's much more to it. But the principles is the main part. It's an exam focused approach. Okay, so I'm getting off track. So number 5. Okay. So we go back to number 5. Let's look at the answers. Immediately overhaul the website infrastructure to improve speed. Okay. Implement a demo solution on key pages while continuing other tasks. All right, I like that. Inform the client that the issue will be addressed after other tasks are complete. So this is rejecting the client's request, which is another principle we're going to look at soon. Increase the budget, so we don't want to do this right away. Okay. The best answer, I like this word, demo. This is going to be my solution. So you might see demo, but MVP is more popular. You might see a minimal viable product more than the word demo itself. Right? Oh, my apologies. The principles are right over here in the question. It's strange. I made this whole document. I forgot how I structured it. Okay, perfect. Number 6, any change will go through a change request process for predictive. Now, the reason why I say for predictive is because predictive projects have a formal change request process. In Agile, changes are prioritized in the backlog. Okay. So extra points for the person that can name me what the change control process is for a predictive project in the comments below. All right. So in a predictive project, so let's not read it. Let's just go to the answer. Oh, you have this explanation over here. So add the change to the project plan and inform the team to proceed. All right. So there's no change request process that's been done over here. So I don't feel comfortable with this solution. Submit a change request for formal approval before taking any action. Beautiful. That's our answer. Reject a change. So we never want to reject a change. We're going to come to this principle later on. We never want to reject a suggestion, a request, an opportunity. Again, we're going to come to this principle afterwards. Add the change to the backlog and decide on its priority with the team. Okay. Now, this is good because this is a good solution, and also this is a good solution. We got to read the problem now. You are managing a construction project in a predictive environment. Done. We got enough information to know that's going to be B. If you just said construction project and not even mention predictive environment, it's a strong assumption to assume, it's a good assumption to assume that it's a predictive project. B is going to be the answer. Let's move on to principle 7. Your team members are the experts, not you. Make every decision with them. Excellent. So, what do I mean by this? What I mean is that you, as a project manager, you are leading the initiative, you're leading the team, you're managing them as well. However, they're the ones that are actually building the product. They're the ones that are actually painting the walls, if you know. Let me know if you guys understood that joke. They're the ones actually painting the wall of your home. And they're the experts because of that. So, principle 7, your team member are the experts, consult everything with them. So decide to implement the temporary fixes to keep the project on schedule. Okay, I don't see anything wrong with that unless there's a principle number 1 somewhere. Fine. Convene a team meeting with the team to discuss both approaches and come to a collective decision. Very good. This is technically principle number 1 and principle number 7, right? You're not only taking a step back and discussing everything, you are taking your team members' opinion and their feedback in that decision. Escalate. We don't want to escalate. We're going to see this principle next, actually. Ask the client for an extension. So what's wrong with an extension? It's going to delay the project. We don't want to do that. Excellent. Okay. Let's talk about 8. The PM is the person that makes the decision. No running, no escalating things. Don't go to HR, don't go to the CEO, don't go to the sponsor. You're going to see that's a lot going to the sponsor. In real life, you might do that, of course, but for the PMP exam, don't go to anyone. You as the manager, you as the, I'm putting this in quotation marks, the boss, you want your team to feel comfortable in going to you, and you want to be comfortable in going to them with a problem. Okay, so let's look at these answers. Immediately escalate the issue, so we don't want to escalate. Approach senior management. Okay, so these are easy problems. However, I just separated the answers in such a way that tells you what you can expect on the exam. So you might not see escalate. You might see approach. You might see that, right? Approach is much lighter than escalate. So you might be a little bit, approaching is not something wrong. It's not in real life, but when it comes to the PMP, make sure you don't go to someone else for these problems. You don't escalate, okay? Or don't approach in this case. Work with your team to find an alternative supplier within the existing budget and timeline and negotiate terms directly. So I like this solution a lot. Why? Because you're working with your team members who are the experts. You're basically taking a step back. You're looking at your constraints, and it's basically an action. It's basically taking a step back before the action itself, right? Principle number 1 as well. D, inform the client about the issue and ask for an extension, so we don't want to do that. Okay? Extension. Best answer is going to be C. Cool. Let's move on to principle number 9. Everyone directly or indirectly involved is a stakeholder and must be added to the register, aka the stakeholder register. And what else should be added? How they impact the project. Okay. Let's move on to this question over here. So again, I want you to read the question and frame the problem, answer the question by framing the problem. But I just want you to get accustomed to the principles. That's why I'm going straight to the answers. And I'm starting with eliminating the answers. Do not do that on your exam. Read the problem. We're going to do that with the other questions, but I'm just doing that just to show you that these principles are actually very powerful, okay? So A, delay. Again, you never want to delay. You never want to delay. You never want to postpone. You don't want to stop anything. Delays are very detrimental for a project. Principle number 2, eliminate A. Add the regulatory agency to the stakeholder register and update the privacy protocols while ensuring the system goes live on schedule. Now, this is a beautiful, full answer. It tells me that this person, the regulatory agent, needs to be added to the stakeholder register. Why? Because they are in charge of, most probably, the privacy protocols. And we're also ensuring the system goes live on schedule. Escalate. Now again, which principle? Principle number 8. No escalating. Okay? No escalating. This is probably one of the most easiest principles to identify. No escalating to the sponsor or to anyone else. Ignore the update and proceed with the rollout to meet the client's deadline, handling the compliance issue later on. Now, when you see the word ignore, naturally speaking, you know that that's not the answer. But they might not always use the word ignore. They might not always use the word ignore. They might use a word that's a little bit lighter, but it means the same thing. For example, skip the update or bypass something. We're not looking for the word ignore. We are looking for a concept that includes the notion of ignoring. So if you look at our principles over here, actually let me switch tabs. So if we look at our principles over here, we never want to immediately reject a request or an opportunity. So ignoring something is like rejecting a certain opportunity or a certain request. So the best answer here is going to be B. So guys, please note my explanations of these principles. They're going to help you remember them and identify them during the exam. Very important. We're not just going through these answers. We are explaining why the answer should be eliminated based on our principles. Okay? Number 10. No matter if the project is completed or terminated, the closing phase must occur. So this is something that happens in real life as well, not just during the PMP exam. Why do we want to close the project formally? Because we have to tie in all the loose ends, or tie out all the loose ends. Tie up all the loose ends. I think that's the expression. Tie up all the loose ends. We gotta release the contractors. We need to release the project team members. We need to sign off on all the contracts. We need to make sure that everything is paid and everyone is paid. So the closing phase must occur. All right. Let's actually read this question and do things a little bit differently. Now, this is what you want to do on the exam. Read the question, obviously, but frame the problem. You are managing a software development project, but halfway through the execution, the client decides to terminate the project due to changing business priorities. Despite the project being terminated, some of the deliverables have been completed, and the team has already moved on to other projects. What should you do next? Problem statement, closing phase, or not closing phase, but the project is terminated. Some deliverables have been completed, and the team is already moving on to the next projects. What should we do as the PM? Move on to other projects since the client terminated the work and no further action is required. Okay, this is interesting. Move on to other projects. Fine. Since the client terminated the work, yes, they mentioned that. And no further action is required. Does this address the problem? Does it address the problem? Technically, it does. We're moving on. We're addressing the problem. However, this rejects or it ignores the situation at hand. Okay, one of our principles is contradicted. So, what do I mean by does this solve the problem? It does, technically speaking. If someone didn't have any knowledge on the principles or project management, they would say that, you know what, it's okay. Moving on to other opportunities is a solution in this case. However, we know that number one, the closing phase again must occur. Number two, this ignores the actual situation at hand. Okay? Anyways, conduct a project closeout meeting to ensure all deliverables are documented, contracts are closed, and lessons learned are captured. Yes, that's the answer. Closing phase must occur. Leave the documentation incomplete and focus on new projects since the work was terminated. So this ignores, again, the situation at hand. Ask the client if they want to proceed with the closing phase or skip it since the project is terminated. Okay, now a lot of people are going to pick this instead of B. Ask the client if they want to proceed with a closing phase or skip it since the project is terminated. No. The client is not in charge of the closing phase. The client is not responsible for making sure that all contracts are signed off on, all the contractors are paid, all the things that the project manager is responsible for has been handled. The client is not responsible for that. The PM is. Do not ask the client about this, okay? So the best answer here is going to be B. Now, on your exam, you're not going to get a detailed answer like this. I made it detailed on purpose so you can understand what kind of happens in the closing phase. All the deliverables are documented, contracts are closed, people are paid, and lessons learned are captured. Those are some main things that happen during a closing phase. You might get a simple answer like conduct a closeout meeting or go through the closing phase, but it means the same thing. Okay? So, this principle is done. Let's move on to number 11. In a predictive project, your plan is your map. Constantly refer back to it. Now, why do I mention predictive project? Because in Agile is very light on the documentation, light on the mapping. Why? Because things are constantly changing. In a predictive project, because of it being something that is predictable, for example, building a bridge. A bridge has been around since what? Centuries and centuries and centuries. Building a house, same thing. Because it's predictive, you can map out your entire project plans beforehand because you know what to expect. But on the agile projects, you do not know what to expect. So you do not want to have detailed plans. Okay? So let's look at this together. A. Reallocate resources as suggested to recover the schedule without referring to the project plan. Okay? Refer back to the project plan and assess the impact. I like the word assess. Principle number? I can't hear you, but principle number 1. Take a step back. Assess the impact of reallocating resources before making any decisions. Very good. Follow the senior manager's suggestion without hesitation to regain lost time. Inform the team that no changes should be made since the weather delay is beyond your control. This is ignoring the request or opportunity. We never want to do that. So right off the bat, we can eliminate two things. D, and we can eliminate D, but B seems like a good answer because they have the word assess in it. So let's look at the situation, just for the sake of it. You're managing a predictive infrastructure project to build a new data center. Project is halfway through, and a few tasks are behind schedule due to unexpected weather conditions. A senior manager suggests reallocating resources from another project to make up for lost time. However, the project plan clearly outlines resource allocation, and making this change would affect other tasks later on. What should you do? Very simple answer is going to be B. Yes, refer back to the project plan and assess the impact of reallocating. The assess part is very important. You're taking a step back. Remember, this fundamental rule, when you see 4 options and one of them is principle number 1 or something similar to the notion highlighted in principle number 1, you want to choose that answer. Simple as that. This is going to save you so much time on your exam. Take a step back. Now, on your exam, you might see things like, for example, they'll give you a risk situation. They'll talk about a risk in the question. A hurricane is coming, and we're building a building. What should we refer to? Risk management plan. Or the hurricane hit us. We weren't able to mitigate the risk. What should we refer to? The issue log or whatever plan that comes after that, right? But what I mean by this is that you should refer to the specific plan highlighted in the question. When they're talking about a risk, look at the risk management plan. When they're talking about the schedule, look at the schedule management plan. When they're talking about stakeholder engagement or participation, look at the stakeholder engagement plan. Remember, frame your problem, look at what the problem statement is, and then from there on, look at what the appropriate plan is that's required. Okay? So let's move on to question 12. So this is not really a principle, but this is an easy way to identify a predictive project and an agile project. You have some keywords for predictive like CCB, change control process, or perform integrated change control process. And for agile, you got sprint, iteration, scrum, daily stand-up, backlog, Kanban, product increment, product owner / manager. Remember, do not get so caught up in identifying if the project is predictive or agile. Sometimes it doesn't even matter. Or no, not sometimes. A lot of the times it doesn't even matter. you'll be able to tell clearly if the project is agile or predictive. Either they'll mention it or they'll mention one of these terms. Cool, let's move on. Question 14. When you or your team have no clue on what's going on, an SME is what you need, or you can refer to past projects in the lessons learned register. Note, the question needs to mention that past projects have been completed. You will see some situations where the question does not mention anything about past projects being completed. But one of the answers will say refer to past projects. If that happens, do not choose that answer. Remember, this is one of our principles. Actually, you know what? We're going to get into that soon, so let's not focus on that right now. But just keep that in mind because the PMP likes to mention that a lot. Let's go through the questions now. Attempt to troubleshoot the issue internally to avoid delays. That sounds like a good idea. We're trying to avoid delays. Attempt to troubleshoot the issue. Okay. Immediately escalate, so we don't want to escalate. I'm going to eliminate that right away. Consult a subject matter expert with the technical knowledge to resolve the issue. Okay. Now, I would not pick this solution right away. I would have to read the question first. If the question mentions that my team does not know what's going on, I don't know what's going on, there's a lack of knowledge, I need to then consult a subject matter expert. Continue with other tasks while the team tries to solve the issues themselves. Okay, let's read the question. You're managing a complex manufacturing project and your team encounters a problem with the machinery that they are unable to fix. The issue is causing delays in production and your team lacks the technical, the team lacks the technical expertise. You recall that a similar issue occurred in a past project, but the solution wasn't well documented at that time. What should you do? Okay, so this is a loaded question, right? We talked about your team doesn't know what's going on, and there's a past project that has been completed, but you don't know what's it's not been well documented. What do you do now? SME. Okay. If they mentioned that, forget about this part. Let's say this part was gone. You recall that a similar issue occurred in a past project. You want to pick right away. You want to pick where is it? The past project. They don't even have that in a solution, but you want to pick that solution if it comes up. Very important. But because we don't have the knowledge, we don't know, SME is what we need. And the reason why we don't want to pick an SME right away is because of principle number 2. SMEs usually cost more money, and we don't want to spend more money. Let us move on to 15. When transitioning from a predictive to agile project, introduce agile concepts slowly through a pilot project or an inception deck. Just think of an inception deck as a PowerPoint presentation or something that explains something that can be presented. I see one of my students came to me one day and was like, "Yeah, I see an inception deck on my exam. I had no idea what that was." I had no idea too. I don't know why they use these strange terms in the PMP. I don't know. Let me know if you guys use inception deck at work, but I don't. I definitely don't use that. Anyways, the point here is that changing project approaches is a very difficult thing for any company. Why? Because it's a culture change. So if you want things to stick, you need to introduce them gradually. So introduce agile concepts slowly. So let's look at this question. Immediately implement agile across all projects to align with the company's new vision. So you won't see the word immediately on your exam. I just added that to make it easier for you guys to understand. You want to implement agile across all projects. All right, you don't want to do that, but the question will say implement agile across all projects, etc. Again, we want to follow this concept of introducing things slowly. Introduce agile concepts gradually by starting with a pilot project to help the team get used to the approach. Yes. Overhaul the entire PMO's processes to match agile methodologies without delay. No. Why? Because it's not going to stick. People don't like change. It's hard for people to change. So because of that, we need to introduce it slowly. Wait for the team. So why? Why is this not the answer? Why is this not the answer? Waiting is the same as postponing, is the same as delaying, or can be stopping the entire process. When you stop, delay, postpone, or wait, as a consequence, what happens? The project is delayed. Principle number 2 in action, eliminate. Best answer here is going to be E. So you're not going to see something full, complete like this. You might see on your exam a pilot project, introduce Agile through a pilot project or through something like an exception deck. So or give a broad general idea, high level objectives of Agile. These fall in the same definition. So make sure you watch out for that. Let us move on to 16 now. All right. Agile projects are self-organizing, meaning teams are in charge. However, the PM can still step in to manage and resolve conflicts. What is this self-organizing concept? Now, we know that Agile projects move very fast. And because of that, the PM cannot and should not step in every single time. In other words, we're going to use this term lightly. The PM should not micromanage his or her team, especially for an Agile project. Your team members are, number one, the experts. They know what's going on more than you. Number two, they do not have time or capacity to entertain a project manager's micromanagement of them. Remember that. They are self-organizing. They figure things out, but if there is a real conflict, meaning that people are about to butt heads or fight or something, an outright conflict, you can step in then, okay? So, you are managing an Agile project for a software development team. During a daily stand-up, the two team members disagree on the approach to a minor feature implementation. The disagreement is not affecting overall progress, and both approaches are valid. What should you do as a project manager? A, let them resolve the conflict. Step in to facilitate a discussion and force a decision to keep things moving. Okay. Remove the feature from the sprint until an agreement is reached. Escalate the issue to the product owner. So what can we eliminate? We can eliminate D right off the bat. Remove the feature from the sprint until an agreement is reached. Does this solve the problem? It doesn't solve a problem whatsoever. Just because I remove a feature, it doesn't mean that's going to solve the problem. I'm going to eliminate C and D. C because it doesn't solve the problem, not because it doesn't contradict any of our principles. It doesn't solve the problem. D because it contradicts our principle of escalating things, sorry. Okay. Now, on your exam, you might see something similar to B. Step in to facilitate a discussion. You're not going to see the second part. You're going to see the first part. Step in to facilitate a discussion or use facilitation techniques. Yes, if it's an outright conflict. However, in this case, it's not. In this case, it's just a disagreement. The PMP likes to use the word collective disagreement. You might see that. Let the team resolve the conflict. Don't get confused. Don't see facilitate or facilitation techniques and get all excited. Understand what's really going on. The best answer is going to be A. Let's look at B now. I think this is the second part. Yes. Okay, so you're managing an Agile project for a mobile app development team. During the middle of a sprint, two senior developers disagree on the best approach to implementing a critical feature. Fine. And the disagreement has caused a slowdown in progress. Oh, okay, this is different. I like this question. The product owner is concerned that the feature may not be completed on time. What should you do as a project manager? Okay, now this is interesting. This is a little curveball here. Now, Because their disagreement is affecting the project's progress, and because there might be a delay, a real delay. Now we're talking about risk management. Remember, anything that can cause a delay is a risk. When there is a risk, the PM needs to step in. The PM needs to step in. There is no other way. Why? Because the PM is responsible for managing risk. Unless you have like a risk manager on your team. But anyways, the PM will still consult with that risk manager. Let the team resolve the conflict. Step in to facilitate a discussion between the developers to resolve the conflict and keep the sprint on track. Remove one of the developers from the project team, the project to eliminate the conflict. So we could eliminate C. Escalate the issue, we can eliminate D. C we eliminate because it's going to create friction in the team. Never create friction in the team. And D, why? Because we don't escalate. But because they said in this question that it's going to affect the progress of the project, I'm not going to pick A. You guys are not going to solve this issue now, this conflict. You're messing around with the schedule of the project. I'm going to step in and make sure that this does not become an issue, that this risk is mitigated immediately. Best answer is going to be B. It's a good question. I like it. It's funny because I made these questions too, and I totally forgot about them, but this is a good question. It's a nice curveball. So just remember, principles work. You have to read the questions though, and you have to understand what's going on. Let's move on to question 17. Agile projects will always need consistent feedback from the customer. Now that's how agile projects are completed. Because they change a lot and because there's a lot of uncertainty, we need feedback from our customer, from our clients, to help direct us and understand where we need to go. Predictive, no. Why? Because predictive, we've been doing it so many times that we know what our customer wants. So let's actually do this problem in full. You are managing an agile project to develop an e-commerce platform. Your team is approaching the end of the sprint. And the product owner has raised concerns that the client has not provided feedback on key features that were recently delivered. Without this feedback, the team is unsure if they should continue working on similar features or make adjustments. What should you do as a project manager? So what's the problem statement? Problem statement is simply, we did not get feedback from our client, and now the team does not know what to do next. That's how I understood the problem. You might understand it in a different way. As long as you have all the right details, you should be fine. A. Instruct the team to proceed without client feedback to avoid delays in the sprint. This ignores the request or the opportunity. In this case, it ignores the fact that we need information from our client. I'm going to eliminate A. Remember, this is principle what? This is principle. Principle 18. B. Pause the development. So pause. I don't like that word. Pause means what? Pause means to stop. It means to wait. It means to delay. We never want to delay our project's progress. I'm not going to even read the answer. You guys read the answer in an exam. Never skip on reading. Understand everything. But when you see a word like pause, stop, wait, I guarantee you that is not the answer. Escalate the issue. We don't want to do that as well. Complete the sprint as planned and wait for feedback at the end of the iteration. Interesting. Okay. We are going to eliminate these two for now. So now we're left with A and D. Sorry, we're going to eliminate A as well because A is rejecting the request. Rejecting the request that's been presented in this question that we need to speak to the client. However, this answer says not to speak to the client. Proceed without client feedback. D now is interesting. Complete the sprint as planned and wait for feedback at the end of the iteration. You're probably wondering, Mohammed, you told me that if they say wait, we don't want to pick that answer. No, I did not say that. I said that if you stop, wait, delay the project's progress, delay the project's progress, delay the project's progress. I don't want to hear this in the comment section, right? If you delay the project's progress by stopping or by waiting, then you never want to pick that answer. However, when you're in the middle of a sprint, things are flowing very smoothly. You do not want to throw things in the middle of that sprint. You want to work on what has been agreed upon in that sprint, what has been agreed upon and stipulated in the sprint planning meeting. You want to finish that, and then at the end, when you're at the retrospectives, then you want to ask the client for their feedback so you can incorporate it in the next sprint. The team is approaching the end of the sprint. They're not at the end of the sprint yet. This is going to be the perfect answer. Hopefully that's clear. If it's not, just put a comment in the comment section. I'll get to it because this is an important concept that you need to understand for the exam. All right, cool. 18. So we talked about this a lot. Never immediately reject a request or an opportunity, especially from a client. Now let's go to the question. Tell the client that the change cannot be done. That is, rejecting, ignoring the request. Discuss the feasibility. I like the word discuss. This is principle number 1. However, let's just read the entire answer. The feasibility of the request with the team. I like discussing it with the team because the team members are experts. And explore options before making a decision. I like the word explore. That's like investigate. This is principle number 1 and the principle of consulting with your team. Number 7. By the way, guys, this is my course. So a weird place to put an advertisement. I apologize for my editing. This is a brand new channel. Forgive me, but this is my course. Whole bunch of questions that will prepare you for the exam, and you got a beautiful answer breakdown as well. This is all you need. This is what I use to get people certified, and you have a mock exam as well with real quality PMP exam questions to make sure that you're prepared. If you're interested, let me know. Book an appointment using the link below. Okay? All right, cool. Let's move on. So the best answer here is going to be B. Remember, again, I'm going to keep repeating this. When you see 4 answers and one of them is principle number 1, you want to choose that answer. Not go wrong with principle number 1. That is principle 18. And now let us move on to 19. When the answer mentions a similar past project has been completed, choose the answer that allows you to refer back to the project, OPAs or lessons learned registered, so etc. Okay. Operation project assets. So, organizational process assets, right? This is where all your similar past projects are kept, all your documentation, industry standards, all that kind of good stuff. So let's move on. You're managing a project to implement a new customer relationship management CRM system for a large company. Midway through, your team encounters a technical issue that is slowing progress. You remember that a similar issue occurred in a previous project. The client is concerned about potential delays and pressuring you for a quick solution. What should you do? So we have a technical issue, but you remember that there was a past project that had been completed with the same issue. What should we do? Remember, when they mention explicitly, when they say, listen, there's been a past project that has been completed with the same issue or with whatever, refer back. They're telling you the answer, telling you need to refer back to that past project. If the question is telling you that there is a past project that had been completed, refer back to it. Okay? Instruct the team to investigate the issue and find a solution immediately to avoid delays. A lot of people will pick this answer. Nothing wrong with that. However, you need to use what's in the question. Refer to the lessons learned register from the previous project to see how the issue was resolved before. Beautiful. I like that. Escalate. We don't want to escalate. Ask the client for additional time. So additional time means what? Means what? What's the magic D word? Delay. If you're asking for your client to extend the project to give you more time, you are, as a consequence, delaying the project. You never want to settle for delays. Okay, let's move on. Principle 20. Now, guys, I know this is a long video. If you master this, I promise you, you will get PMP certified. If you master this, 80% of your exam is going to be based on situations. So if you master this, you'll be able to fly through the situation-based questions and get to the answer. So don't skip this. I know it's a little boring. PMP is boring, but just remember, at the end of the day, you're getting your PMP certificate so you can start making a higher salary. You can have more opportunities open up to you. You can have a competitive edge in the job market. Get your PMP right now because the market is slowly becoming more and more and more saturated. Okay? It's a perfect time. So don't give up. Principle 20, when the answer mentions information not mentioned in the question, eliminate the answer. Okay, so what do I mean by that? If the answer mentions a extra detail that we cannot validate from the question, do not assume outside the scope of the question, but simply just eliminate that answer. So for this, we actually have to read the question. In a project management, that's the explanation. You're managing a construction project that is nearing completion. During a final review, a team member suggests making additional safety improvements that were not part of the original scope. The client has not requested these changes and no new safety issues have been identified. The project is already on a tight schedule and the team is preparing for the final handover. What should you do? So the first thing we should do is frame the problem. We're at the final review stage. Someone suggests making additional safety improvement that was outside of the scope of the project. The client has not requested these changes. No safety issues have been identified. We're on tight on schedule. What should we do? Proceed the safety improvements to ensure the project exceeds safety standards. Refer to the lessons learned register on how to deal with unrequested changes and continue with the original plan. Inform the client about the proposed safety improvements and ask if they want to include them. Submit a change request to the project sponsor for approval. So we don't submit a change request to the project sponsor. And so that we can eliminate for approval and safety improvements. Okay. So proceed with the safety improvements to ensure the project exceeds safety standards. I'm not going to choose that. Not right away. Refer to the lessons learned register on how to deal with unrequested changes and continue with the original plan. Now, in the answer, in the question, did we mention anything about a past project that had been completed? Or did they say anything in the question where there was another project with unrequested changes, or at the end of the project? Did they mention anything of that nature? They didn't. So because of that, I don't want to pick B. I do not want to pick B. C is going to be the best answer. Inform the client about the proposed safety improvements. Informing can fit in the definition of discussing. And ask if they want to include them. So this whole answer is like principle number 1 in action. Instead of using the word discuss, we're saying inform and ask. In a way, you're discussing with the client if they want to include this. C is going to be the best answer. Now, let me ask you this question. If C is the answer, what's the next logical step? The next logical step is D. minus the project sponsor. Forget about the project sponsor. We want to do D, submit a change request. We ask the client, are you okay with this? Client says, yes, let's do it. All right, now we need to actually submit a formal change request to see if this whole thing is feasible, to see what it actually impacts. Okay, so that's the answer for question 20. But remember, don't assume outside the scope of the question itself. Stick with what's in the question. All right, so this principle, pretty easy, but very rare. Anytime an answer mentions only or any other word that eliminates all other possibilities, eliminate that option. A lot of people don't understand what I mean by this. Only is such a word that restricts the answer to one thing and one thing only. If I say that I only apply to PMP roles, that means that everything else that's not PMP, I will not apply to. Now let's look at this question and answer. Inform the client, answer A, that the feature can only be added if they agree to extend the schedule and increase the budget. This eliminates all other options, all other possibilities. It's an easy way to get to the answer or to eliminate the answer. But things like only, always, never, you never want to pick those. This is actually not PMP related. This is a MCQ, a general MCQ rule, multiple choice question rule, that if you're taking an exam and you see the word only, always, or never, you do not want to select those options most of the time. Review the impact of the change to the team and discuss alternative options with the client. I like this principle number 1. Remember, if you see principle number 1 in an answer and all the other answers are things that can happen after principle number 1, choose the principle number 1 answer. Reject. We don't want to reject things. Accept the client's request and proceed with the enhancement without adjusting the schedule or budget. Now, this last part is ridiculous. You don't want to do this. But let's just say, you know what? Let's eliminate the last part and say accept the client's request and proceed with the enhancement. This can follow answer B. But because we have principle number 1, we want to choose that. And we're simply going to eliminate A because it has one of those only words that restrict the answer. So we're not going to pick that. Okay? Hopefully that's clear. 22. Oh, I love 22. 22, you're going to see this on your exam 100%. So remember this principle. When there is an occurrence that affects the schedule, choose the answer that looks at the critical path. When there's something that affects the schedule, meaning that it could be potentially delayed, you want to look at the critical path. So if you see a scheduling problem somewhere where there's a potential delay, and you see an answer that talks about looking at the critical path, that is the answer that you want to choose. Let's read this question together. You're managing a construction project, and a delay in receiving critical materials has set the project back by 2 weeks. The team is working hard to make up for lost time, but several tasks are dependent on the delayed materials. You're worried this delay might push the project past its delivery deadline. What should you do next? Let's start with D, because I see critical path on the in A. Adjust the project schedule and continue with the remaining tasks, hoping the delay won't affect the final deadline. Adjusting the project schedule is fine. Continue with the remaining tasks is fine. The second part you will not see on your exam, I can tell you that. I had to make these questions a little bit different. Hoping the delay won't affect the final deadline, that's not the style of PMP. You're going to see the first part, adjust the project schedule and continue with the remaining tasks. A lot of people are going to pick this. But what you want to do first is you want to look at the critical path. In this situation, looking at the critical path is like taking that step back. It's like principle number 1. Because this critical path will tell you so much information that you need in order to make sure that you are on the right path to finishing on time. Ask the team to work overtime to make up for the 2-week delay. You never want to ask your team to work overtime or take on extra tasks, so I'm not going to pick that answer. Inform the client about the delay and request an extension to the delivery deadline. Inform the client about the delay. Fine. However, request an extension to the delivery deadline. No, we don't want to extend things. Even though our project is delayed, we never want to settle for delay. We want to try to get our project back on track. So asking for an extension is not going to cut it. Reassign resources from non-critical tasks to focus on activities that are part of the critical path. Beautiful. I like this. Looking at the critical path, you'll see what is not critical, what is not required. And you want to reassign the resources to focus on the critical paths to make sure that for now, the tasks that are needed to finish on time are worked on. A is going to be your answer. And the last principle of the day before we move on to some questions where we're going to solve them completely is never give your team member an extra task that will reduce their capacity to focus on their primary tasks. This includes grouping them together with members to train. Okay, so let me explain this because a lot of people don't understand. Now, we can agree that your project team members are working on your project, let's say for 8 hours a day. If you give them another task, they won't be able to focus on the project. This includes grouping them together with other team members to train them. You will see this in the corporate world. You'll see this in real life, where let's say you have a senior project manager working away on the project, and then a junior project manager joins the team, and the boss says, "Hey," to the senior project manager, "Can you teach this junior project manager everything you know?" What does that do as a consequence? It reduces the capacity of the senior project manager, meaning the senior project manager cannot focus completely on the project. Let's look at this question. You're managing a software development project, and one of your senior developers leading the implementation of a critical feature. A junior developer has recently joined the team and needs help getting up to speed on the project's coding standards. Your client is pushing for a faster delivery, and your senior developer is already stretched thin. What should you do? Okay, this junior project developer needs help, and you got a senior software developer as well. What should you do? Assign the senior developer to train the junior developer while continuing to lead the critical feature. Okay, remember, we don't want to do this. Reassign the senior developer's task to someone else so they can focus on training the junior developer. This is a critical task. We need the software developer who's already working on the task to complete it. Can we assume that the other person has the technical knowledge or the knowledge whatsoever to complete this task? I don't think so. Question doesn't say that. Anyways, let's move on. Bring in an external trainer to handle the onboarding of the junior developer while the senior developer continues working on the critical feature, okay? Now, what does this do? What does this imply? If we bring in an external trainer, we have to spend more money. I don't want to do that. Principle number two. No spending extra costs, no spending extra money. Ask the junior developer to learn independently to avoid impacting the senior developer's workload. This is a good answer. Work independently. I remember vividly seeing this on the PMP exam, where they didn't say work independently. They said that the junior developer should work independently outside of working hours. The PMP went that extra step. And I completely agree with the PMP on this. That if you're new to the company, you need to spend extra time in your own time learning about the ins and outs of the project. Because I'm hiring you to work on this project. I don't have time to have someone tutor you, or even if you learn about the project during work, that's reducing your capacity. So you might come across that during the PMP exam. Just remember, don't look at your real life experience. Look at what PMP deems as best practice. We want to have the junior developer learn independently. If the PMP mentions even outside of working hours, pick that answer as well. Okay? Those are our 23 mindset principles that will tell you the answer. I'm sorry, my throat is so dry. Someone complained that I shouldn't drink water while filming YouTube videos. So I'm like, you know what? I won't do that. And if it makes you upset, I won't do that. That's why I'm constantly pausing the videos and drinking water. But those are our 23 mindset principles. These principles, if mastered, will tell you the exam answers before even reading the question. And if you master them, I'm telling you this right now, out of someone who's taken the exam, who's used these principles, who's worked over thousands of problems to derive these principles, who's been teaching so many people, my whole course is focused on these principles, who's been teaching everyone this methodology. If you master it, you'll be fine. 80% of the exam at that point is yours. Master them. Let's move on to some PMP questions that we can practice on, some mock questions, and you can work on themselves. I highly suggest you do them yourself and you just verify the answer while watching this video. Awesome. So before we begin the PMP practice problems, I just want to remind you guys that I have a PMP Accelerator course. It's a course that's meant to get you certified the fastest and the easiest way possible. We cut out all the fluff. It's an exam-focused approach. Get certified with a one-month structured schedule. You got key concepts. You got videos explaining everything in a very clear, concise manner. You have the principles over here. You got a breakdown on how to logically answer a question. You got all the principles. You got a whole bunch of exam questions that you can practice on, similar exam questions that you can practice on, and you got a logical breakdown for each of the answers, or you have a video of me explaining the answer in a very logical way. Okay, so if you're interested in that, you also have a mock simulator exam at the end, so you can practice as much as possible, and of course you get my support. So that's the best thing, right? Why do the PMP alone when you can get a instructor to support you and help you along the way? If you're interested, book an appointment and we can talk more. All right, let's jump straight back into the PMP questions. And let me just zoom in just a little bit over here. Okay, we're going to start with question 1. Remember, the document is in the description below. You can access it and study with it. Okay, so question number 1. Now we're going to solve this together completely. 3 steps only. That's all you need in order to solve a situation-based question. After meeting with clients to discuss the project plan, project manager was informed that the proposed 12-month timeline for productive delivery is no longer acceptable. The clients require the product to be launched within 4 months. Based on the new expectation, what should the project manager do next? We have a timeline of 12 months. Now we need to condense it into 4 months. That's our problem statement. What should we do next? Explain that delivery cannot be made in such a short notice. So this is one of our principles that are being contradicted. So if you go over here, never immediately reject the request or opportunity. That's principle number 18. Reevaluate the project backlog, prioritize essential features, and create a MVP that can be delivered within the next month, the new 6-month time frame. Okay, so it should be 4 months. I don't know why they mentioned 6 months, but anyways. Reevaluating the project backlog, taking a step back. You're prioritizing essential features. You're creating an MVP. Now, what's special about an MVP? An MVP gives the client, in our case, an idea of the full product. So it delivers immediate value, and we're able to take that value and reiterate and redefine our sprint. Okay? So it gives us valuable information. And remember, I want you to note this. The PMP loves to bring the MVP as one of the tools that are used. They'll either call it MVP or demo. Same thing. So I like B for now. Let's move on. Let's not eliminate that. C, request additional budget approval from the sponsor to bring in more resources and compensate for the compressed schedule. Now, we never want to spend money immediately. Number 2, never settle for extra costs. However, there could be a moment where we will need to spend money in order to mitigate a schedule slippage, okay, or a delay. So we don't want to do that right now. Okay, let's just put it on the side. The reason why I'm doing that is because we have B, which is a good answer for now. So I'm not going to choose C. I'm going to eliminate it. Assess the critical path and inform the stakeholders that delivering the full project scope within the 6-month timeline is unachievable. Now, assessing the critical path is a good move, because then you can look at the critical activities and see what you can do with that. The second part is what I'm not happy with. You're rejecting the request. So you never want to. Number 18, you never want to reject a request or an opportunity. So that being said, the answer here is going to be B. Now, some of these questions might be easy. That's totally fine. Remember, we are getting used to the principles. It's not about solving the question or getting the right answer at this stage. It's about understanding the question, understanding each and every answer, and being able to eliminate and then choose the right answer. The process in this stage right now is more important than the answer. Remember that. Number 2. A pharma company is overhauling its product development and release strategy. The senior stakeholders consider this transformation to be high risk and emphasize that it must be successful. Which action should the project manager take in this situation? So, they're overhauling the product development. This transformation is highly risky. What should we do? A, make a business case that highlights the assumptions and expectations for the new model. Okay. B, develop a communications plan to ensure employees are informed about the new business model. All right. Not really a communications issue here. It's more of a high risk because of the transformation. So I wouldn't choose that right away. I'm going to eliminate that. Plan and implement an iterative approach that prioritizes delivering the highest business value early. All right. Draft a detailed sprint plan that clearly defines the deliverables for the upcoming iterations. Okay. So the only answer that our principal eliminates is B for now. Okay. Well, not our principal, but because it doesn't solve the core problem for now. D, drafting a detailed sprint plan, is actually counter agile. Agile documentation is not detailed. So I already know that something's wrong with that answer. D, I'm going to eliminate. So far we've eliminated B and we've eliminated D. Make a business case that highlights the assumptions and expectations for the new model. I like that. Plan and implement an iterative approach that prioritizes delivering the highest business value early. Now I like that more. When you plan an iterative approach, you are automatically going to consider what is valuable. You're going to consider the assumptions. You're going to consider the expectations, the constraints, whatever it may be. So in a way, A is included in C. Planning an iterative approach that prioritizes delivering the highest business value. Business value or value is another key word that you want to look out for. Anytime there's a decision that you need to make or you need to do for your project, you want to choose the most value-driven approach. Principle number 4. Okay. So, are you going to see a situation like this on your exam? So, when you have to pick a certain approach, like a predictive approach, hybrid, agile, you're not going to see it like this. You're going to see it much more in a much clearer fashion. You're going to see answer A say hybrid, answer B predictive, answer C agile, whatever it may be. And you'll have a situation and you simply just choose one of them. Okay? But here the answer is going to be C. The principle here is that it's business value. Okay? Let's move on. Question number 3. A PM is assigned to lead an agile team. The team, however, does not feel empowered. How can the project manager encourage empowerment and accountability within the team? Okay, so problem statement is pretty simple here. The team doesn't feel empowered. We need to encourage them to feel empowered. What should we do as a project manager? Assign tasks based on each team member's role to ensure they work on areas where they have expertise. Okay. Anytime they say that, assign people to work on roles that they have expertise in, it doesn't really lead to anything where it doesn't really lead to feeling empowered. It might, or you might think it does, because they're working on something that they're good at, but just for the PMI or PMP exam, just note that it doesn't lead to empowerment. Okay. Encourage the team to conduct demos of their products or software directly to customers. So this doesn't do anything. This does not answer the key question. It does not make your team feel empowered. Let's move on. Give the team the autonomy to decide how they will complete their tasks. This is what will create an empowered feeling in your team. When you can decide how you want the project to be or how your task should be like, you will feel empowered. You're not micromanaged. It's the opposite of being micromanaged. Okay, and remember that an agile project, and we mentioned agile team, are self-organized. So self-organization is one of our principles, actually. And this is a very important concept that you have to understand. Do not forget this for your exam. Agile teams or agile projects are self-organized. Forget it. It's somewhere here. You guys could check it out. But agile teams are self-organized. So giving them the autonomy, the independence to finish their tasks is something, or complete their task is characteristic that fits within agile. So C is going to be the answer for now. Urge the team to consult the product owner when determining how to solve specific tasks. No, the product owner is responsible for what? The product owner is responsible for the product backlog. The task, on the other hand, are in the responsibility of the team. Okay? So the best answer here is going to be C. Let's move on. Question 4. A PM, it's a little bit of an error here. I'll fix it up for you guys right now. Okay. Question 4. A project manager has been assigned to lead a new project. The organization does not have a project management office or any formal policies and procedures. What should the project manager do first? So they want to lead a new project, but they don't have a PMO. As a consequence, they don't have any formal policies or procedures. The problem here is that they basically don't even know how to start. A. Consult a subject matter expert to determine the best way to move forward. Okay. Now, let's see what else there is, because usually when you have a subject matter expert, you have to put more money forward, or you have to spend more money to get him or her to help out with the project. Discuss with the team members on how the project should move forward. All right. I like this. Team members are your experts. So let's not eliminate this right away. So remember, this is one of our principles. Team members are your experts. Number 7, not you make every decision with them. We're going to come back to it though, okay? There's a little bit of a detail that we have to address. Select either a predictive or agile framework that best suits the project and use it as the foundation for governance, policies, and procedures. Yes, fine, but we don't even know what our policies are. We don't even know that. We don't even know how to choose if the project is or should be done in an agile framework or a predictive framework. So we have to figure out how to address this particular part. Guide the team to create tailored governance policies and procedures that fit the specific needs of the project. Let's go back to the question now. The organization does not have a project management office or any formal policies and procedures. Now, this is a trick question. And you have to kind of use your head here. Now, I'm doing you're not going to get something like this or this complicated on the exam, hopefully. But if you understand this, it's better than not understanding it. Now, when you are in your company and the organization does not have a PMO or any formal procedures or policies in place, you can properly assume that nobody knows about how to make these formal procedures or policies, how to even handle a project. If your company or your organization does have it, even if it's just a little bit of formal procedures and policies, then you can assume that there is someone in the company that knows these things. Because of that, we are going to go with A, consult a subject matter expert to determine the best way to move forward. Next, ideally, should have been B, discuss with the team members on how the project should move forward. But because your company does not have any of these things, we cannot consult the team. They won't know. Now, what can you expect on the exam? When should you go speak to an SME? When the question clearly mentions that, number one, the PM, the project manager, does not know what's going on, or something along the lines of that. And number two, your project team also needs help. They don't know what's going on. It could be a totally new project. Then you want to speak to the SME. That's the notion. That's the idea that I want you guys to understand from this question. When no one knows what's going on, speak to an SME, speak to a subject matter expert. The project manager is the first person that should figure things out with the project team. But again, like I mentioned, if none of them know what's going on, no one's going to figure anything out. Go to the SME. Best answer here is going to be A. Okay, let's move on to question 5. So at the start of project execution, the project manager discovers that a key team member will be unavailable for 2 weeks, which could potentially cause a delay in the project schedule. What should the project manager do first? So someone's going to be unavailable. This might cause a delay. What should we do? A, reassign the task to another resource and ask them to work additional hours. Okay. So you're going to see on the PMP exam, sometimes they might mention, allow your team to work overtime or tell this person to work more hours. That's not something that you want to do. This goes against PMP's, I'm going to use the word style, but also their teachings, right? Even though it happens in real life, we don't want to do that. I've never seen an answer that says, you know what, you should make your team work overtime. If they do mention that, it will be along the lines of divide the extra work that remains amongst the team members. Okay? It'll be something along the lines, but you'll never see work overtime directly or additional hours. So I'm going to eliminate that. Update the project schedule to reflect potential delay due to the resources unavailability. Okay. So yes, there could be a delay. But if I update the schedule to reflect the potential delay, what am I doing at the end of the day? I am accepting that the delay will occur. And our principle number 2 says that we should never settle for delays. So I'm going to eliminate B as well. Contact human resources to request temporary placement and update the risk register. A lot of people are going to pick that. But remember, we do not want to. Contacting is like escalating. Obviously, it's a little bit less, a little bit lighter, but it's like escalating. We don't want to go to anyone first. Let's try to try to solve the problem on our own. As the project manager, we are in charge. We need to solve the problem. Let's solve it. So do not pick C right away. I'm going to eliminate it. We're left with D. Revise the resource management plan and adjust the resource allocation chart accordingly. So resource allocation chart is like, the RASI. You can look at that. They'll tell you a little bit more. So over here, we know that there's a resource that's going to be missing. So the resource management plan will tell us what to do exactly. And if we look at the RASI, it will tell us also, tell us the responsibility of each member. Maybe someone else who's responsible for another task can help out. We'll be able to know much more doing D. Okay. But you guys see how I eliminated all the other answers? And that's exactly what you want to do on your exam. You don't want to just pick out an answer. You want to make sure that that's the right answer by eliminating everything else. Okay? Number 6. Now, during a retrospective, I'm just going to pull the question out here. Okay. During a retrospective, several team members mentioned that they are unable to complete tasks during iterations due to interruptions and requests for help from other teams. As a team facilitator, what should the project manager do to prevent this from happening? Okay. A lot of interruptions and a lot of requests from other teams. And because of this, your team can't focus. A. Identify root causes of the interruptions and establish clear ground rules for the team to minimize external disruptions. Okay, I like that so far. Bring in a coach to help all project teams improve their ability to solve problems independently. Now remember, we don't want to bring in a coach right away. We don't want to escalate things. We don't want to go speak to this person, that person. Let's solve the problem on our own. And when you bring in a coach, what happens? You're going to spend more money on that coach. I'm going to eliminate B for now. C. Meet with the affected team members and advise them not to reduce their capacity when faced with interruptions. Okay. All right, not a bad answer. It doesn't contradict our principles. The reason why I don't like it that much is because you're just advising them. But advising is not bad. It's still a solution, but okay, let's move on. Suggest that a team member improve their planning process by breaking down tasks into smaller, more manageable pieces. Okay, so this doesn't really address the root problem or the problem statement. We're talking about external requests and interruptions. So this doesn't really solve the problem. I'm going to eliminate D. I'm left with A and I'm left with C. I like A lot because we're looking at the root cause, and this is one of the tools that the project and the PMP likes to use a lot. Root cause, right? When you see that on your answer, obviously read the answer, but when you see it, it's a good probability that that's going to be the answer. So you identify the root causes because it'll tell you what the root problem is, and you establish ground rules. Okay, now here's a little trick for you guys. I just figured this out by going through so many problems. When an answer mentions ground rule, that is most probably going to be the answer. Because the term ground rule, it does not come up a lot. It does not come up at all. You might see it once in your exam or twice, max. But it does not come up as a common term in any other question. So when they throw in this term ground rule, obviously read the question, but it's most probably the answer. When you read the question, you see that, you know what, your team is not abiding by some rules as a collective, your collective team is not abiding on by some rules, then ground rules is what you want to choose. So in this case, yes, your whole team or several team members responsible for not responsible for these interruptions and requests. They're getting they're losing focus. So this is a good answer to use as well. Okay, ground rules. So I like A. I'm going to choose A. Great. So remember that little hack for you guys on your exam. Easy points. Okay. Question 7. A project manager is overseeing the rapid development of a software project. The company expects one of the deliverables to be delivered within 2 weeks. However, the team is experiencing issues and the release management team currently has a 3-week backlog. What should the PM do? So we need to deliver something in 2 weeks, but we have a 3-week backlog. 2 weeks and 3 weeks. So we're basically delayed by a week. What should we do? Push the team to work faster so that the deliverables are developed and delivered within management requested time frame. No, we don't want to do that. Okay. Push the team to work faster so our deliverables are developed and delivered within management requested time frame. So if you push your team to work faster, one consequence is that the quality of the product itself can be affected. Okay. And they're not telling us how the team should work faster. Let's move on. Engage with the stakeholders to address the bottleneck and explore ways to streamline the overall process. Okay. All right. Not bad. So we know the team is experiencing issues. So if we have issues and we address the bottleneck, so addressing the bottleneck is done through what? You can do a root cause analysis, you can look at the bottleneck and explore ways to streamline the overall process. I like this so far. Have the team adjust the tighter deadline so the integration can be completed on time. Okay, fine. This is like question. This is like answer A. They're not really telling us how, so I don't feel comfortable with this answer. Discuss with the team and slow down progress to ensure alignment with the release management times. Okay, so this is funny because D goes completely against the answer. I mean the question, and I seen this actually in one of the questions that we were working on. Um, it was about giving independence or autonomy to the team. But one of the answers said enforce stricter rules. So I was like, hey, this goes exactly against what we're talking about. So I threw that in there as an easy giveaway, but D is not going to be the answer. The best answer here is going to be B. Engage with stakeholders, address the bottle. This is principle number one in a way. You're discussing with stakeholders, you're looking at the bottleneck, you're exploring ways. Remember, if you see principle number one in one of your answers, that is the answer. Okay? All right, let's move on to question 8. All right, it's this one. Okay, so this question, I made a small mistake in, but I left it. I left it to test you guys, but now we're going to explain it together. A PM is overseeing two projects simultaneously. The duration of the critical project must be reduced, but there's not enough resources to do so. Additionally, the schedule does not have tasks that can be overlapped. What should the project manager do? Okay, so we need to reduce the schedule. We need to finish the project earlier, basically. We don't have enough resources, number one, and we do not have any tasks that can be overlapped or, in a sense, multitask, meaning our team cannot work on multiple tasks at once. What should we do? Identify the most efficient use of shared resources between both projects. Okay. Use resource optimization techniques in order to ask for more resources. Okay. Provide training on schedule optimization to help the project teams improve their scheduling skills. So it's not really a scheduling skill problem. So I'm going to eliminate C. And it's not really the team's fault as well. Why are we going to help the team improve their scheduling skills? It's not their fault. We're out of resources and we don't have enough money. Apply fast tracking techniques. Okay. So the problem with this question is it was supposed to be either there's not enough resources or the tasks cannot be overlapped. But two of these conditions were placed in the question. Now let's look at our course for a little bit over here. Let's go all the way down to the terminology section. Cheat sheet terms. By the way, these are all the terminology that you have to know. Okay. So crashing. Crashing is a fast tracking technique. Look at this. Adding more resources to speed up completion. However, we know that we don't have enough money. We're out of budget. And look at this one. Fast tracking now. Let's go all the way down to fast tracking. It's another scheduling compression technique. It shortens the time to completion by team members multitasking. This is the overlapping of tasks. So because both of these things are clearly outlined as not a possibility, we are not going to apply fast tracking techniques. But on your exam, you will get a situation where they'll either say we don't have enough resources or we cannot overlap, but it will never be both of them together. And that's when you choose fast tracking or that's when you choose crashing or fast tracking. Okay. So over here, this is not going to be the answer. So what's the best next answer? So I didn't include this on the answer sheet, but tell me what the best next answer is in the comment section. What do you think the best next answer should be for question number 8? All right, awesome. Let's move on to question number 9. We're doing well. Okay. An agile team has committed to delivering the first product release after the current iteration. However, multiple operational issues have prevented the developer from delivering. Additionally, the technical lead has announced a resignation from the company. What should the project manager have the team do to recover from these setbacks? Okay, so we got an issue here. There's multiple issues operationally, and one team member, a technical lead, has resigned. What should we do? Review the ongoing sprint constraints and assess alternative options for the release plan. I like that. Principle number one. Stop the sprint. Okay, so again, we never stop the sprint. Remember, stopping the sprint means delaying, means postponing, means that there's going to be an overall delay in our project. Stop the sprint, plan again, and reprioritize the backlog to adjust to the reduced resource capacity. Refer to the resource management plan to determine the best course of action. Okay, that's good too as well. We look at the resource management plan to assess who can replace this technical lead. Fine. Review the existing sprint plans to ensure that some of the scope is still delivered. So we're going to naturally proceed with the existing sprint plans. However, this doesn't address the issues presented in the problem. So I'm going to eliminate D and I'm going to eliminate B. We're left with A and C. A is going to be the best thing because it encompasses principle number one. Review the ongoing sprint constraints. And remember, for an agile project, you're not going to have a detailed resource management plan. That's something for a predictive project. You do have things like documentation that tells us, who's doing what and all that kind of stuff. But resource management plan is a terminology for your exam restricted to a predictive project. Remember, we are taking an exam-focused approach. My whole teaching method, my whole YouTube channel is focused on an exam-focused approach. You might do things differently in real life. You might do things differently in your companies. But when you see resource management plan, they are talking about something that's predictive. Okay. So the best answer here is going to be A. Question number 10. Okay, so this is a pretty easy question. Easy points. This is what I meant when I said it before. You'll get like different scenario. You'll get a scenario. You have agile. You'll have predictive. You'll have hybrid. You have to pick the right one according to the situation. So a company is transitioning to an agile project approach. Not all stakeholders support the transition, and some prefer a predictive approach. However, the project sponsor needs to produce results fast, or the project will be discontinued. What approach should the project manager take? Okay. Now, this is a little bit tricky because we said in the beginning the company is transitioning to an agile approach. So shouldn't it be agile? I think it should be. However, not all stakeholders support the transition, and some prefer a predictive approach. So remember this concept. When transitioning, let's go back to our principles. Principles. All right, I gotta find this because sometimes I don't even know what the position of the principles are. By the way, don't memorize these principles. Simply just look at, just understand them. Understand it. So when transitioning from predictive to agile, introduce agile concepts slowly. Okay? So if we go back, we do not want to take a direct agile approach. We are simply going to take a hybrid approach that's going to accommodate both. That's going to have components of predictive and of hybrid. Why? Because number one, we want a quick win. So we want to show quick value. That's what it means. Results, fast. Value, fast. And we want our team to also have the chance to get used to agile. So we are going to use a hybrid approach. Okay. So remember, when you have two components of predictive and of agile, you want to use hybrid. Okay. All right, awesome. Let's move on to question number 11. A PM is assigned to work on a project that is a part of a larger program. The general requirements for the project are established, but some of the priorities are unclear due to their dependency on other ongoing projects within the program. What should the PM do next to move forward with the project? Okay, so we got general requirements. They have been established, but the requirements priorities are unclear. Okay, what should we do? A, report the issue to the leadership team and request more time due to the project's complexity. Reporting it is like escalating. We don't want to do this. This is principle number 8. Okay, the PM should make the decisions, him or herself. Delay scheduling the project until estimates from other projects are available. So we do not want to ever delay anything. Remember this rule, this fundamental rule. When you see the word delay, stop, or postpone, we never want to do this. Anything that causes a delay is something we do not want. Very important. Eliminate A and B. Set priorities and create a timeline for milestones using other projects as reference. Okay, very good. Let's move on. Ask the project management office, PMO, to gather estimates for all related projects and then distribute the project plan. Okay, so we can go to the PMO to gather estimates for all related projects. However, the PMO is not going to provide us all of this information. Okay, the PMO will not provide all of this information. The PMO is there more of a support. And if you could name the 3 types of PMO structures in the comment section below, and their, a brief 1-sentence description of what their responsibility is, depending on their structure, bonus points for you. I will like your comment. Not you won't get anything, but I'll like your comment. Okay. Now C is going to be the best answer. Set priorities and create a timeline for milestones using the other projects as reference. Why? Because we're in a situation where the project is a part of a larger program. Now, what is a program? A program consists of multiple projects. We can set priorities using the other projects as reference. Okay? Very simple. Not a crazy answer, not anything, but we eliminated A and B using our principles, and D uses some knowledge in understanding what PMO does. Okay? Best answer here is going to be C. Let's look at D now. Okay, so during the final sprint review, the key stakeholder expressed dissatisfaction, saying that several expected features were not included in the product. The team countered, stating that each increment had met the agreed upon acceptance criteria, which had been approved by the stakeholder. The project's cost performance metrics is 1.09, and the schedule performance index is 1.33. Okay, so I include a little hint here. Trick question. Do not let the numbers confuse you. Understand what the core problem is. All right. A, direct the project team to implement the requested changes since the project has both budget and schedule flexibility to do so. Okay. Is that true? We have the CPI and SPI. But let's just move on and let's just read all the other questions, the answers. Request the stakeholder to formally submit a change request to extend the budget and schedule for the required changes. Okay, we'll know if this is true by analyzing the CPI and SPI. Let's just read everything. Clarify to the stakeholder that the project can be closed as all increments met the acceptance criteria. Investigate the misunderstanding from both sides and work towards negotiating an agreeable solution. All right. Now, this is interesting. This emphasizes my point on principle number 1. When you have 4 options over here, and one of the options is principle number 1, where you take a step back and you collect the information required before making a decision, that is the answer that you want to choose. Now, I already know, obviously I know about CPI and SPI, but I already know that by just looking at D, I know the answer must be that because it respects principle number 1. Remember this rule, guys. For your exam, when you have 4 selections, if one of them is principle number 1, and principle number 1 is very simple, all you're doing is you're taking a step back as a PM and you're collecting all the required information required before making a decision. When you see that, then that's going to be the answer. Okay? But let's look at this in a more technical way. We have the CPI and we have the SPI. So you know what? Let's just use our course over here. I'm going to go all the way down to cheat sheet terms. I think it's over here. Honestly, I don't remember, but I believe it's over here. So just bear with me. Cost, there we go. Okay, so we got cost performance index and we got schedule performance index. See, I break down things in a very easy way for you guys to understand. Oh, this is a better one. This will compare both of them, okay? So we got, now check this out. We have combining these two things. Now we have a CPI of 1.09 and SPI of 1.33. Okay. CPI is greater than 1 and SPI is greater than 1 and CPI is greater than 1 as well. Your project is under control as it is both on or ahead of schedule and on or under budget. Okay, let's go back now. What should the project manager do in this situation? So the project countered stating that each increment had met agreed upon success, which had been approved. Okay, fine. However, there's a disagreement, and that's the problem statement. The problem statement is not that the SPI and CPI are over 1, so everything's fine. The problem statement is the key stakeholder expressed dissatisfaction. Remember that. And because the problem statement is that, we want to investigate this misunderstanding and then work towards negotiating an agreeable solution. We can go for A, direct the project team to implement the requested changes, since both project has both budget and schedule flexibility to do so. However, it doesn't address the core problem. B, request the stakeholder to formally submit a change request. So we won't do that right now, unless we actually have a reason for a change request. C, clarify to the stakeholder that the project can be closed, as all increments met the acceptance criteria. Okay. However, none of these problems address the problem statement, which is the dissatisfaction. This is very important. If you are not able to pick out the problem statement, you will not get to the right answer. Okay, D is going to be the correct answer. So let us move on to number 13. Okay, so 13, following a meeting with the customer, the project manager receives praise for consistently keeping the project on schedule. Later the same day, the PM attends a regular team meeting to check on progress of the deliverables. What should the project manager do during the team meeting? Okay. So, simple question. Project manager gets praise because he or she is on schedule or is finishing ahead of schedule. And this project manager is now meeting the team. What should the project manager do? So I can already tell this is going to be more of a servant leader type of question in the domain of people. So A, communicate the customer's positive feedback to the project team. Okay, I like that. Stick to the meeting agenda and outline the upcoming deliverables. Okay. Record the customer feedback in the official meeting notes. Begin organizing ways to enhance the time of future deliverables. Okay, so A is obviously going to be the answer. You want to make your team feel and know that not only are they appreciated, but they are the driving forces of success. They are the reason why this project is on schedule. The project manager does play a role in that, of course. But remember, your project team are the individuals that are building the product, that are building the project from scratch. Okay? They are the people that should be praised. So A is going to be the answer here. Okay. There's no principles that are being contradicted, but A uses all the information in the question and really answers what the project manager should do. All right, let's move on. A PM has been assigned to a new project and receives a completed project charter. The document outlines the customer requirements. However, during the project scope management process, some of the requirements appear to be different from what was stated in the project charter. What action should the project manager take? Okay. Remember, the project charter is a general bird's eye view of your project and its main components. It's not going to be detailed. The project scope management process now um, make some of the requirements, or some of the requirements are different from this process. We see that some of the requirements are different. Okay, and this process is where the scope management plan is created. The scope is further outlined. So we see something is different. There's a little bit of a difference in what we stipulated in the project charter and what we're seeing now. What should the project manager do? Adjust the project's baseline for minor changes that will have a limited impact on the project scope. Okay. Conduct a brainstorming session to gather more detailed information about the project scope. Okay, I like that. Remember, principle number one, you don't have to explicitly say investigate or discuss. What's the purpose of a brainstorming session? It's to gather more information. This will allow you to make a more justified choice once you have that information. Submit a change request to CCB. We're not going to do that right away. Escalate the issue to the project sponsor and let the sponsor resolve so we don't escalate things. Okay. Now, technically speaking, C, the change control board or the change control process does have a step where the PM collects information. But remember, before starting the change control process, you need to have it in the back of your mind that I'm going to make a change, meaning that you are submitting a change. However, we don't want to submit a change right now. We just want to see what the problem is. There's a difference between the project charter and what we're seeing right now. We want to just investigate and see what the reason is, what the problem is. So we want to conduct a brainstorming session to gather more detailed information. That's going to be our best answer here. Okay. Now, if after, let's say after B, we see that, hey, you know what? We need to actually change our scope. Then we are going to submit a change request. Understand that. So a change request is when you are ready to submit that change. You're still going to go and gather more information, or at least collect that information and submit it to the CCB so they can decide. But right now, we're not even at that phase. Okay? Understand that core difference. Alrighty, number 15. A healthcare company conducted research for a feasibility study, revealing that the project is running behind schedule. The project team is also worried about how scope changes may affect the schedule. What should the project manager do to ensure the project stays on track? All right. I don't care if this is a healthcare company. I don't care that they're doing a feasibility study. That's not the problem statement. Well, that should not be a part of the problem statement. We have to understand the problem is that the project is running behind schedule, and the team is also worried of how scope changes may affect the schedule. That's our problem statement. A, discuss scheduling compression techniques with the project team. Okay, I like that because discussing means that you're taking a step back before deciding. Discussing also means that you're, or in this case, you're involving the project team and they're the experts. They know what they're doing, right? Our principles over here. Go all the way back. Your team members are your experts. Consult with them. And they're mentioning scheduling compression technique. Scheduling compression technique literally compresses the schedule so you finish earlier. Okay, so it has all the components that I'm looking for in this answer. Let's move on though. Submit a change request to CCB and adjust the schedule accordingly. Now remember, we should submit a change request, but what's our first step? What should we do? Okay, if we decide on A, then yes, we can submit a change request because having compression techniques will, without a doubt, shrink our schedule, and we need to submit a change request for that. Okay, remember, when the project baseline is affected in any way, submit a change request. But right now, A is probably the best answer. Let's continue. Update the project scope and allocate additional resources. Okay. This could follow A, right? So I would choose A first still. Modify the scope and proceed to the next project milestone. Okay. So A is going to be the best answer. Principle number one, simple terms. And every B, C, D can follow A. Okay, so A is going to be my first choice. All right, let's move on to number 60. So after reading this question, ask yourself if the Agile team is in the beginning of the project, middle, or end. Then answer according to that. Okay, let's do that then. An Agile team is working to establish quality standards for a project. How should the project manager guide the team? Okay, so an Agile team is working to establish quality standards for a project. So they're working to establish these quality standards, meaning that these quality standards have not been established, meaning that they are most probably at the beginning of the project. Okay, let's just move on and see the answers. Identify the tools and methods for project success, ensuring that testing is done early and continuously. I like that. Right? You're identifying the tools, methods for project success. So this is in the beginning of the project. You're ensuring that testing is done early and continuously, like testing should be done. Testing should always be done continuously. Okay, let's move on. Advise the team that user acceptance testing is necessary to confirm that the project owner approves the solution. Advise the team that user acceptance testing is necessary to confirm that the project owner approves the solution. So, user acceptance testing, yes, is necessary, but to confirm the product owner approves the solution, no. No. The product owner is solely focused on the backlog, the product backlog. The people that can help in confirming that the solution is approved, or in this case, the product is approved, will be the project team, or will literally be the client at the end of the sprint. But anyways, let's just move on, see what else there is. I still like A more. Encourage the implementation of task-driven development. Okay. Ensure the definition of done is confirmed with the product owner when the product owner agrees that all acceptance criteria are met. Okay. So I like how they mentioned definition of done. However, when the product owner agrees that all acceptance criteria are met, so this is at the end of the project, and the definition of done comes at the beginning of the project. So ensure that the definition of done is confirmed when the product owner agrees that all acceptance criteria are met. Okay, I get it. I apologize. This is my mistake. Ensure that the definition of done is confirmed. I was reading it in the way that ensure the definition of done is basically made or is decided upon, where the team kind of gathers together and makes what does the definition of done look like. When the product owner agrees that all acceptance criteria are met, the product owner is not responsible for this. The people that are going to look at if the acceptance criteria is met are namely going to be the clients. The clients are going to look at this and they're going to say that, hey, listen, this is what we've agreed upon. The definition of done is what we have agreed upon. Have we met these requirements? If they do, then we accept the product. If not, then we do not accept the product. Okay. So D is not going to be the answer because of that error that the question mentions. All right. Product owner, nope. A is still going to be my choice. Identify the tools and methods for project success. Why? Because we're at the beginning of the project. We are still establishing the quality standards. Then we need to identify some tools and methods for project success and ensure that testing is done early and continuously. Okay? That's my take on it. And this hint over here really helped a lot, but A is going to be the answer. Okay, I like the style of A as well. It's kind of like principle number one, where you're identifying the tools, meaning that you're investigating, you're looking for these tools, you're doing a little bit more research in order to get the right tools. Okay, so A is going to be the answer. All right, number 17. Let's move on. The CEO of a traditionally driven company, so predictive, right? When you see the word traditional, predictive, think of it as the same thing for your exam. Asked a project manager with agile expertise to see if the project could be executed using an agile approach. What should the project manager consider when deciding? If the project involves technology and has a low impact on the organization, okay, I don't think so. If the project has a low impact on the organization, why even do it? Regardless if it's predictive or agile. If the project scope can be broken down into smaller components and feasibility of delivering an MVP. Okay, I like that. Because remember, when it comes to agile, agile is done by iterations, a bit by a bit by a bit. So you complete a little of the project, and then you complete a little bit more, and then you refine your strategy and complete a little bit more. Can the scope be broken down? Yes, it can. Great. Can we deliver a MVP? Because we need to be able to show something to our clients. Yes, we can. Great. I like this. Okay, remember, one of our principles as well is that on your PMP exam, you will see this tool a lot. The PMP will either call it a minimal viable product, or if it's a feature, a minimal viable feature, or they'll call it a demo. When you see that in your answer, obviously it doesn't mean that it's the answer. Read the question, but there's a good chance that it's the answer. So I like B for now. The project scope is clearly defined and the requirements have been prioritized. Okay, no. So it should be the opposite for Agile. Remember, for Agile, if your project scope is not clearly defined, that's a good thing. Because an Agile strategy will work in that case. Because remember, Agile is you take a couple of steps forward, you look right, you look left, you look out in front of you, and you decide how you should move after that. So you're continuously refining your strategy. But if everything is defined, then I don't need to do agile. I can just do predictive, right? D, the project team is co-located and can effectively collaborate. Okay, this is a good solution as well. Why? Because agile teams preferably should be co-located because things are moving so fast. It is not a requirement though. Remember that, okay? Co-location is very important for agile because your team is very close together when it comes to agile because things are moving very fast and there's so many uncertainties. So if I want to contact John, who is in my agile team, I should be able to walk a couple of steps and get to him instead of having to send an email or calling him. However, it's not required. The number one thing that's required right now from these answers is B. If we can't do B, there's no point of doing it. Just stick to predictive. B is going to be the answer here. All right, let us move on. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this video. If you are, please give it a thumbs up and a like. I promise the editing is going to get better. I apologize. I'm just recording off my screen, but hopefully you guys are finding value. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for helping me grow this channel. We're almost at 2,000 subscribers and my videos are getting thousands and thousands of views, all from you guys. And I really hope that you're getting certified from my videos. If you are, please leave a comment. It really warms my heart to know that these videos are helping you get certified and potentially, hopefully, I'm praying that you guys get better jobs and better opportunities and a higher salary. Okay, let us move on to 18. So there's a hint here. Read the question carefully. We want to look for the very next step. Okay. A newly hired project manager notices that a looming deadline might be missed due to previous delays caused by a shortage of resources. What should the project manager do next? Right. So every time you see the keyword next at the end of the question, next or first, you want to look for the very, very, very first step. And usually, not usually, I always see it actually for now, 100% of times, the next step is principle number one. Okay. So the problem statement is that we have a shortage of resources and we have a deadline that might be missed because of it. What should we do next? Review the list of milestones to identify which tasks can be expedited. Okay. I like the word review because when we review, we take a step back. And if we take a step back, then we are able to properly identify things. It's principle number one. I don't like this over here. Which task can be expedited? Usually when you expedite things, things don't really work out. The quality is not there. But anyways, I understand what the question is saying and the answer is saying. Let's move on. Let's see what the other options are. Examine the risk management plan to determine the appropriate response. This is a good step. Okay? Examine the risk management plan to determine the appropriate response. I like this. Why? Because we have a looming deadline that might be missed due to previous delays. So, what should we do? Escalate the issue to the product. Okay, so we don't escalate things, so I'm going to eliminate C. Convene a team meeting to discuss the next steps. Oh, okay, this is a little bit tricky now. So we got B. Examine the risk management plan to determine the appropriate response. And we got convene a team meeting to discuss the next steps. What should we do now? I'm going to go with D. I'm going to go with D because they're asking what should the project manager do next. When you discuss things with your team, you might see that, you know what, we can mitigate this risk by looking at the risk management plan, or we could do something else. But talking to your team first will at least equip you with the knowledge, the information that's required in order to make an appropriate decision. Whether that be examining the risk management plan and looking at the risk response or something else. But in my head, the best thing would be D first and then B. Because remember, at the end of the day, your team are the people that are working with these resources. Resources might not just be people, it could be like equipment. So the team is working with the resources. The team has a better understanding of what is going on right now with the project. The project manager doesn't have that understanding, at least not as much as the team. I'm going to go with D, question 18. Okay, let me know if you guys agree with me in the comments section. I love discussing and debating with you guys. And I think it helps because it solidifies our understanding of what the answer should be. Okay, so let's move on to 19. 19 is more of a choose two questions or choose two answers. Sorry. A team member shares some critical feedback about a fellow team member's performance with their functional manager, which was originally discussed during the retrospective. The PM learns about this exchange. What two actions should the project manager take? Okay. So, team member basically goes and snitches or tattletales on their fellow team member. And the project manager to the functional manager, the project manager learns about this. What should the project manager do? Reach out to the functional manager of the team member and invite them to participate in the next retrospective meeting. Okay, why? Okay, which was originally discussed during the retrospective. Okay, why? This doesn't really solve the problem. When you're at the retrospective, you're discussing the product, right? This is not the problem statement, or it doesn't solve the problem statement. This is a people problem. We're talking about a team member sharing some critical feedback about another team member. What should we do? So I'm not going to pick A. I don't believe it's going to solve the problem. Hold a meeting with the entire team to revisit ground rules for maintaining a safe and open environment. Okay, I like that. So let's just hold it for now because I would prefer speaking to the team member in private. Because it involves one person, I would prefer speaking to this team member in private and then proceeding forward. But let's just hold it for now because I don't know what C and D and E are. Have a discussion with the product owner about the situation. So the product owner is not involved in this. I'm going to eliminate C. Contact the team member to clarify what information is. Okay, this is good. D is good. We're contacting the team member in private, and we are telling them what is appropriate to share outside the team. Meet with the sponsor to assess the situation. So we don't want to escalate. Sponsor is basically out of the picture. For your exam, the sponsor is out of the picture unless it mentions a sponsor in the question. Okay, that's a quick little hack there. So the best answers are going to be B and D. Hold a meeting to remind the entire team. That's great. But this is the most important. D is going to be the most important. I like the people problems. The people domain in the project management professional exam are probably the easiest. Every time there's a situation with people, how do you deal with it? The easiest. Anyways, last question of the day. Man, this was a long video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. A team is divided over how to approach a feature of a product currently in development, and despite starting the sprint 2 days ago, they still haven't come to an agreement. What should the project manager do? All right, so simply put it, the project team cannot decide on something. It's been a while, they can't decide. What should we do? Ask the product owner, who is the primary stakeholder, to make a decision among the various ideas. No, and the product owner is not the primary stakeholder. There's no primary stakeholder. I mean, if there is a primary stakeholder, I would say it's a client, right? But definitely not the product owner. Present the ideas to the team, have everyone vote, and go with the most popular option. Democracy. Okay, no. So we already know the team can't decide, so having them vote is not going to help in that. There are some voting methods that we can probably discuss in another video. Do you have to know it for the exam? It can help, but because the situation has stated that they can't come to an agreement, I'm not going to do that for now. Let's just see what else there is. Organize a session where the team members can express their opinions on each idea, then hold a vote and make a decision. Okay, C is better than B, but again, it's this whole concept of voting again that's kind of throwing me off a bit, because they've been given the opportunity to come to an agreement. They haven't. D, provide feedback on the positives and negatives of each idea and attempt to facilitate. Okay, this is beautiful. D is the answer. I like D. Okay? Here's the thing. So you allow your team to decide. Why? Because in an agile project, and here's one thing. When they start mentioning things like feature and product, you can consider it as an agile project. And even in the answers, you'll see that they mention product owner. All right? So anyways, the team in an agile team are self-organizing, like one of our principals have stated. So we allow the team to make the decision. However, if they can't come to a decision, it is absolutely fine for the product owner to come in. For the project manager to come in and help them make a decision. So D is going to be the best answer in this case. Okay. But the main purpose, guys, of these questions, and a lot of them are very easy, is for you to understand the concepts or the notion behind the principles. If you understand the principles, you are set for 80% of the exam. Okay? And again, this workbook is available to you guys in the description below. And again, I have my course ready for you guys. So if you are tired of studying for months and months and months and you want to get certified, you want to get this over with, and you want a guarantee, meaning that, hey, Mohammed, if you can't get me certified, I want my money back. If that's the case, book an appointment. You can scroll down, you can book an appointment, and we could talk about it for my course and get you certified so you can get those promotions at work, other opportunities. Get certified before this field becomes saturated, because it is heading towards that direction. But right now, the marketplace wants the PMP, so get the PMP and do yourself a favor. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends, with your family, with your pets even. I don't care. Share this channel so we can grow it together. And take care for now. Watch out for more videos. I promise you the editing is going to get better. I'm just waiting on some equipment. All right? Take care and have a fantastic rest of the day.